Friends, in today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is called Kung Fu Panda 4. We will cover what this movie is about, where you can watch it, and share all the interesting facts related to this film. In this video, I'll also tell you which OTT platform or satellite channel will be streaming this movie. Along with that, we'll dive deep into its technical department, animation quality, music composition, pre-production, voice recording, post-production, budget, and box office collection. We will also discuss the story of this movie, and I'll give you a short review as well. Apart from that, we'll explore some fun facts, the full storyline, star cast, voice actors' performances, and which actor has voiced which character. So friends, I request you to watch this video till the end. Let's begin the video. Let me know if you'd like a version in Urdu or a translated word-for-word breakdown as well. Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of the plot and narrative structure of Kung Fu Panda 4, focusing on how the story unfolds, its structure, key turning points, and emotional impact. Kung Fu Panda 4, plot and narrative analysis, third-person perspective. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the story continues with Po the Dragon Warrior, now a seasoned hero, facing a new chapter in his life that challenges both his role as a warrior and his personal identity. The film follows a conventional narrative arc, with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Yet it introduces fresh emotional depth and new characters that offer perspective shifts and internal conflict. 1. Opening setup, Act 1. The film opens in the Valley of Peace, where Po has now become a symbol of protection and inspiration. However, Master Shifu reveals that it is time for Po to transition into a new role, spiritual leader of the valley, a task that requires him to choose and train a successor as the next dragon warrior. This revelation sets up the internal conflict, Po's reluctance to let go of his identity as the heroic warrior. He is unsure if he is ready to step into a more peaceful, wisdom-driven role. This emotional uncertainty becomes the foundation of his journey. Simultaneously, news arrives of a new threat, a powerful sorceress named the Chameleon, a shape-shifting villain who can absorb the abilities of past kung fu masters. Her plan is to resurrect the powers of the past villains and control the spirit realm, which directly threatens the balance of life and kung fu. 2. Conflict and Journey, Act 2. Po sets off on a journey to stop the Chameleon. Along the way, he meets Jun, a quick-witted and morally ambiguous fox who has knowledge about the underworld and the Chameleon's domain. Jun becomes both a sidekick and a potential candidate for the next dragon warrior. Here, the narrative brings a fresh mentor-mentee dynamic, shifting Po's role from student to teacher. This evolution deepens the emotional stakes as Po must guide someone else, even while feeling uncertain himself. The middle portion of the film involves training sequences where Po and Jun bond. Moments of self-doubt as Po questions whether he can ever be more than just a warrior. The exploration of the spirit realm, which introduces mystical, slightly abstract elements that contrast the grounded Valley of Peace. These sequences maintain a linear timeline but play with spiritual flashbacks and inner visions, adding a slightly unconventional touch to the narrative structure. 3. Climax or Turning Point, Act 3. The climax takes place in the Chameleon's lair, where she summons the energies of past villains, like Tai Lung and Kai, through dark magic. Po is forced to confront not only these powerful figures but his own fear of change and irrelevance. In a crucial emotional moment, Po realizes that true strength isn't just physical. It's about passing on wisdom and trusting others. He accepts that his time as Dragon Warrior is ending and fully embraces his new identity as a spiritual guide. With Jun's help, he defeats the Chameleon not through brute strength, but by outsmarting her and restoring balance to the spirit realm. 4. Resolution or Ending. The film ends with a ceremony in the Valley of Peace. Po officially names Jun as the new Dragon Warrior, symbolizing the passing of the torch. There is a sense of legacy, growth, and emotional closure. Po now takes on a Gandalf-like presence, a wise mentor who has evolved from a clumsy outsider into a pillar of inner peace and leadership. Narrative devices and themes. Conventional hero's journey. The story sticks mostly to a classic structure but integrates deeper psychological conflict and mentor dynamics. Themes. Letting go of identity and embracing growth. The importance of teaching and legacy. Balance between physical power and inner peace. Perspective. Though primarily linear, the narrative uses spiritual sequences and metaphoric visions to reflect inner turmoil, adding a poetic layer to a straightforward plot. Emotional impact. The film resonates emotionally because it explores transition and self-worth, themes relevant not just to children but to adults as well. Po's journey mirrors the real-life challenge of redefining oneself after success, making the story more mature and introspective than previous entries. Would you like this content turned into a video script for your YouTube channel as well? I can help you format it accordingly. Panda Face Kung Fu Panda 4, Character Development Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. 1. Po, the Dragon Warrior, a mentor. Po remains the emotional and narrative anchor of Kung Fu Panda 4. Over the course of the franchise, audiences have watched him evolve from a clumsy, noodle-loving panda into the legendary Dragon Warrior. However, in this fourth installment, his journey takes a more introspective and mature turn. At the beginning of the film, Po is faced with a crisis of identity. Master Shifu informs him that it is time to assume the role of spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, a wise teacher rather than an active warrior. This causes internal conflict, as Po is not ready to let go of his role as a hero and fears becoming irrelevant. This psychological struggle becomes the core of his arc. Po's growth is not about learning to fight. He has already mastered that. Now, it's about learning to let go, to guide rather than lead, and to find value in wisdom, not just action. His interactions with the young fox can challenge him to step into the mentor role, even when he doubts himself. By the end, Po accepts his new identity with grace. He doesn't just pass on the torch, he embraces his legacy. His development is subtle, layered, and emotionally powerful, marking a transition from a classic hero to a mentor figure, akin to Master Oogway. 2. Zhen, the fox, our successor in the making. Zhen is the newcomer and wildcard in Kung Fu Panda 4. She is a street-smart, independent, and slightly rebellious fox from the city, introduced as a thief with knowledge about the antagonist, the Chameleon. Initially, she's only interested in personal gain and survival, but her journey becomes a parallel to Po's own in the original film. Zhen is multidimensional. Beneath her tough exterior lies a desire to belong, to prove herself, and to find purpose. Her sarcastic humor and reluctant attitude toward training conceal her fear of vulnerability and her lack of trust in others. Her development happens through her growing bond with Po, who treats her with kindness, patience, and respect. Her exposure to Kung Fu as a philosophy, not just as a weapon. Her realization that she can be more than a survivor, she can be a hero. By the climax, Zhen not only helps defeat the Chameleon but proves herself as worthy of being the next dragon warrior. Her arc mirrors Po's from the first film, providing narrative symmetry and emotional payoff. 3. The Chameleon antagonist. The Chameleon is a magical shapeshifter and the primary antagonist, who absorbs the powers of past Kung Fu masters. While her screen time is less than that of Po or Zhen, she is not a one-dimensional villain. Her desire to control the spirit realm and bring back villains like Tai Lung and Kai comes from her obsession with legacy and power. She believes that true influence lies in domination, not guidance, a direct ideological contrast to Po. Through her, the story explores the misuse of spiritual power and how ego can corrupt even mystical gifts. Her presence forces Po to understand what it means to use wisdom responsibly. In that sense, while the Chameleon is a supernatural villain, she also serves as a philosophical challenge to Po's internal journey. 4. Supporting characters: Shifu, Mr. Ping, and the Furious Five. Master Shifu plays a minimal but pivotal role. He serves as the catalyst for Po's transformation, urging him to embrace a new role. His character reflects the calm wisdom that Po must now embody. Mr. Ping, Po's adoptive goose father, and Li Shan, Po's biological panda father, provide comic relief and emotional support. Their continued coexistence and shared pride in Po symbolize unity and diversity, a subtle but strong message about family and acceptance. The Furious Five have limited screen time but are referenced as mentors or legends. Their absence puts the spotlight on Po and Zhen, emphasizing the generational shift. Character relationships and dynamics. The strength of Kung Fu Panda 4 lies in how relationships shape the character's evolution. Po and Zhen, their mentor-mentee bond drives the emotional core. Po learns to teach, and Zhen learns to trust. Po and Shifu. Shifu's faith in Po triggers the hero's self-discovery. Po and the Chameleon. Their ideological opposition defines the film's central thematic conflict: ego versus humility, control versus guidance. Emotional and thematic resonance. Legacy and succession. Every major character grapples with the idea of legacy, how to preserve it, how to pass it on, and how to live up to it. Growth through letting go. Characters mature by embracing change rather than resisting it. Wisdom over power. The film argues that true strength lies not in force, but in knowledge, patience, and faith in others. White heavy checkmark conclusion. From Po's reluctant evolution into a mentor, to Jin's transformation from a loner to a hero, Kung Fu Panda 4 offers some of the richest character development in the franchise. Relationships drive emotional change, and each arc contributes to a cohesive story about growth, responsibility, and the beauty of passing the torch. Would you like this written as a formal script for your YouTube video too? I can format it accordingly with intro, narration flow, and conclusion. Performing Arts Kung Fu Panda 4 A Performance Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the voice performances are once again at the heart of the film's charm, humor, and emotional resonance. The cast, both returning veterans and new additions, breathe vibrant life into their animated counterparts, making the characters feel not only entertaining but emotionally grounded. The voice acting continues the tradition of excellence established in the previous films, while also introducing fresh energy through new characters. 1. Jack Black as Po, the Dragon Warrior. Jack Black once again delivers a captivating and heartfelt performance as Po. Over the years, Black has evolved the character from a bumbling, wide-eyed panda into a more layered, introspective figure. And in Kung Fu Panda 4, that maturity is fully realized. His performance balances comedic timing. Black's signature humor is present, especially in light-hearted scenes with Mr. Ping or during awkward mentor moments with Zhen. Emotional subtlety. In quieter, more reflective scenes, such as when Po contemplates his future role or feels unsure about Jin's readiness. Black's voice conveys vulnerability without becoming melodramatic. Commanding presence, in action and teaching moments, his tone shifts to match Po's evolution into a leader, displaying a newfound authority and emotional depth. Jack Black's performance anchors the entire film. His portrayal makes Po feel human, despite being a panda, relatable and deeply inspiring. 2. Awkwafina as Jin, the fox. Awkwafina, a newcomer to the franchise, voices Jin, and her performance is one of the film's standout highlights. Jin is street-smart, sassy, quick-witted, and skeptical, and Awkwafina captures these layers with exceptional range. Key elements of her performance include distinct vocal identity. Her voice instantly sets Jin apart from previous characters in the series, bringing modern energy and relatability. Emotional transformation. Awkwafina smoothly transitions Jin from a sarcastic outsider to a vulnerable and eventually confident warrior. She handles scenes of defiance, regret, and courage with believable nuance. Chemistry with Jack Black. The dynamic between Jin and Po works largely because of the vocal chemistry between Awkwafina and Black. Their banter feels organic and emotionally resonant. Jin's character is complex, and Awkwafina ensures the audience is invested in her journey. Her performance elevates the film's themes of mentorship and transformation. 3. Viola Davis as the Chameleon, villain. Viola Davis voices the Chameleon, a mystical and intimidating antagonist. Known for her commanding presence in live-action roles, Davis brings that same gravitas and chilling control to this role, and it significantly raises the stakes of the narrative. Her performance is cold and calculating. Davis uses a deliberately slow, ominous delivery to give the villain a sense of menace and mystique. Emotionally grounded, despite being a magical villain, the Chameleon is not cartoonish. Davis brings a psychological edge that makes her character's motives believable and even tragic in moments. Unforgettable presence, even in animated form, Davis's voice carries the weight of a real threat, adding credibility and intensity to the film's climax. Her casting is bold and successful, lending Kung Fu Panda for a theatrical villainous flair rarely seen in animated films. 4. Supporting cast performances. Dustin Hoffman as Master Shifu. Though his role is brief, Hoffman's voice once again adds a quiet wisdom and emotional weight. He acts as the philosophical backbone, and his conversations with Po are gentle but profound. James Hong as Mr. Ping. As Po's adoptive goose father, Hong continues to deliver comic relief with a deeply emotional undercurrent. His voice carries warmth, concern, and pride, especially in scenes where he supports Po's transition. Bryan Cranston as Li Shan. Po's biological father Cranston adds humor and fatherly enthusiasm to his character. His dynamic with Mr. Ping provides heartfelt and humorous family moments that ground the story. Though the Furious Five play minimal roles, their voice actors return to offer continuity and nostalgia for longtime fans. Vocal direction and sound design. The film's vocal direction is sharp and effective, ensuring that every actor remains true to their character's personality and emotional arc. The sound design supports the voice performances beautifully, allowing the actors' deliveries to shine without being overshadowed by music or effects. The way the dialogue flows, from comedic to dramatic, from light banter to solemn reflection, shows that the cast was given room to explore their characters beyond just surface-level dialogue. White heavy checkmark conclusion. Kung Fu Panda 4 boasts some of the strongest voice performances in the franchise. Jack Black leads with emotional authenticity, Awkwafina brings freshness and relatability, and Viola Davis delivers a chilling and memorable villain. The supporting cast enhances the richness of the film, ensuring each character contributes to the story's emotional and thematic impact. The synergy between voice acting and animation brings these characters to life in ways that resonate with both children and adults. These performances don't just tell the story, they elevate it. Let me know if you'd like this converted into a voiceover-ready script or formatted for your YouTube video narration. Clapperboard Kung Fu Panda 4, Direction Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. Directed by Mike Mitchell, with co-direction by Stephanie Ma Stein, Kung Fu Panda 4 benefits from a refined balance of continuity and evolution. The directors honor the spirit of the beloved franchise while confidently steering it into new thematic and emotional territory. Their direction plays a pivotal role in shaping not only the film's tone and pacing, but also in deepening its emotional and philosophical resonance. Performing Arts 1. Tone and Mood. The tone of Kung Fu Panda 4 is a carefully crafted blend of adventure, humor, and introspection. From the outset, the directors establish a mood that feels both familiar and fresh. Light-hearted and comedic sequences, especially involving Po and Mr. Ping, retain the series' signature levity. More introspective and mature moments, particularly those dealing with Po's inner conflict, legacy, and growth, introduce a contemplative mood that reflects the character's evolving journey. Mystical and suspenseful tones are brought in with the villain, the Chameleon, whose dark powers and spirit realm connections are conveyed through moody visuals and atmospheric music. This multi-layered tonal palette allows the film to appeal to younger audiences while also offering deeper emotional textures for older viewers. Movie Camera 2. Narrative vision and structure. Mitchell and Marstein guide the story with a clear thematic vision. The concept of letting go, succession, and the redefinition of identity. Their narrative strategy respects the traditional hero's journey but turns it inside out. Instead of watching a character rise to power, we watch a hero learn how to step aside gracefully and prepare someone else to rise. Key directorial decisions in narrative structure include centering the mentor-student dynamic between Po and Jin, which adds dual narrative arcs, Po's transition and Jin's growth. Creating parallels between Po's past and Jin's present, allowing for natural character mirroring that feels earned rather than forced. Balancing 3 layers of story: the personal, Po's growth; the external, the Chameleon's threat; and the philosophical, spiritual legacy and power. The result is a narrative that is emotionally layered, well-paced, and thematically rich. Artist Palette 3. Stylistic choices. Visually and stylistically, the directors embrace both tradition and innovation. A. Visual style. The film maintains the franchise's iconic mix of Eastern aesthetics and Western animation techniques, such as stylized martial arts choreography, landscapes inspired by traditional Chinese ink paintings, the use of vibrant, warm color palettes in peaceful scenes versus cold, mystical tones in spirit realm sequences. B. Flashbacks and spirit realm. The sequences involving the spirit realm are rendered with a dreamlike quality, soft lighting, glowing particle effects, slow motion, and surreal transitions. This marks a stylistic shift from the physical action of the real world and immerses the viewer in a metaphysical space that reflects inner conflict and ancient wisdom. C. Humor and timing. The comedic beats are carefully directed, never undercutting serious moments, but providing relief and contrast. The directors ensure that humor feels organic to character, especially in scenes involving Po's awkward mentor moments or Mr. Ping's overprotective parenting. Stopwatch #4. Pacing and rhythm. The pacing of Kung Fu Panda 4 is consistently tight and engaging, a hallmark of strong animation direction. Opening act quickly establishes stakes and introduces the new character, Jin, without overwhelming the viewer with exposition. Middle act balances training montages, internal reflection, and the gradual reveal of the Chameleon's plan. Climax delivers high-energy action while simultaneously resolving Po's emotional arc. Ending slows down deliberately to allow the emotional weight of legacy and succession to land fully. By modulating the pace to match emotional and narrative beats, the directors ensure that no moment feels rushed or prolonged. Bullseye 5. Direction of performances and character moments. Mitchell and Marstein coax nuanced voice performances from the cast, especially Jack Black and Awkwafina, by allowing space for characters to breathe. Dialogue scenes are given emotional weight through subtle pauses and beats between lines. Thoughtful reaction shots, even in animation. Carefully choreographed nonverbal animation cues, such as body posture, eye movements, and gestures, that reflect the emotional state of characters. Their direction ensures that animated characters feel as emotionally expressive as live-action performances. Glowing Star 6. Thematic cohesion. The film's most impressive achievement lies in its thematic cohesion, and that is directly credited to the director's vision. Every element, from the villain's motives to Po's spiritual doubts to Jin's potential, reinforces the central question. What does it mean to grow, and how do we let go of what we once were to become something new? The directors never lose sight of this thematic thread, even amid action, humor, and spectacle. White heavy checkmark conclusion. The direction of Kung Fu Panda 4 is confident, emotionally intelligent, and visually rich. Mike Mitchell and Stephanie Marstein shaped the film into more than just a fun animated sequel. They turn it into a meditation on mentorship, legacy, and personal evolution, wrapped in humor and adventure. With strong pacing, stylized visuals, powerful performances, and a clear narrative vision, the direction elevates the film from mere entertainment to something truly meaningful and resonant, for kids, adults, and longtime fans of the franchise alike. Let me know if you'd like this formatted as a YouTube narration or turned into a script for voiceover. Movie camera Kung Fu Panda 4, cinematography analysis, third-person perspective. Though animated films do not use physical cameras in the traditional sense, Kung Fu Panda 4 is crafted with an equally cinematic eye. Under the direction of visual leads and layout artists, the film employs a virtual camera with deliberate choices in framing, movement, and lighting to deepen the story and elevate the viewer's experience. The cinematography in this installment is not only visually stunning but intensely narrative-driven, blending style with substance in nearly every scene. Camera with Flash 1. Camera angles and movement. From the very first frame, Kung Fu Panda 4 uses virtual camera work to emphasize character emotions, power dynamics, and shifts in tone. Low angles for heroism and threat. When Po trains Jin or faces the chameleon, the camera often adopts a low-angle shot, elevating characters to convey power, growth, or menace. During battles or declarations of intent, these angles make characters appear larger than life, aligning with the mythic tone of the Kung Fu world. High angles for vulnerability. When Po doubts his readiness to pass on the mantle of Dragon Warrior, or when Jin feels out of place in the Jade Palace, the camera takes a slightly elevated position, subtly implying emotional vulnerability or lack of control. Sweeping tracking shots. Fight sequences and training montages are captured with dynamic, flowing 360-degree camera movements, giving viewers a front-row seat to the action. In particular, the chase through a village marketplace features a long, unbroken take, where the camera glides behind and alongside characters, mimicking the energy and unpredictability of classic kung fu cinema. Zooms and close-ups. Emotional beats are often punctuated by gradual zoom-ins, particularly when characters reflect silently or make important decisions. The film's close-up framing brings nuance to animated expressions, making small details like eye shifts, for movement, or hesitant gestures deeply impactful. Electric light bulb 2. Lighting and color palette. The lighting in Kung Fu Panda 4 is meticulously crafted to define mood, underscore themes, and differentiate between physical and metaphysical realms. Naturalistic lighting in real-world scenes. Peaceful valley scenes use warm, golden sunlight, evoking tranquility and nostalgia. Training scenes in the Jade Palace are lit with diffused skylight and lantern glows, creating a sense of spiritual heritage and quiet discipline. Symbolic lighting for emotional states. When Po is conflicted, or when characters undergo turning points, the lighting dims slightly, a visual representation of internal shadows or uncertainty. Jin's transformation from rogue to hero is mirrored by how she moves from shadows into more brightly lit frames over the course of the film. Spirit realm sequences. The spirit realm, where Po communes with ancient masters or faces the chameleon's magical forces, is a visually distinct realm. It is defined by ethereal glows, soft focus gradients, bioluminescent effects, pale blues, deep purples, and spectral greens. This visual style creates a dreamlike atmosphere, blurring the boundary between reality and myth and enhancing the spiritual undertones of Po's journey. Framed picture #3. Framing and composition. Every shot in Kung Fu Panda 4 is composed with intentionality, be it for comedy, combat, or character development. Rule of thirds and center framing. Heroic stances, such as Po standing against the chameleon or Jin leaping into action, are often placed dead center for iconic emphasis. In dialogue-heavy scenes, characters are framed using the rule of thirds, allowing the backgrounds to remain active and immersive without distracting from the performances. Depth of field. Though this is animation, Kung Fu Panda 4 utilizes simulated depth of field to focus attention. Backgrounds often blur slightly during emotional or intense dialogue, keeping viewers locked onto the characters' faces. Foreground and background layers. The film frequently uses layered composition to represent internal conflict or duality. In one scene, Po sits in the foreground, while murals of previous dragon warriors appear behind him, silently questioning his legacy. In another, Jin stands at a crossroads, literally framed by a fork in the path behind her, visualizing her moral dilemma. Milky Way 4. Visually striking moments. Several sequences stand out as visually breathtaking, thanks to the cinematographic direction. Opening montage, a stylized montage of past dragon warriors, told in a brushstroke animation style, is shot as if it's unfolding across a scroll, an homage to ancient Chinese art. Final battle. The climactic battle with the chameleon in the spirit realm is a masterclass in visual storytelling. The camera constantly shifts angles, merges with magical effects, and even rotates mid-air during Po's final strike, creating a visceral, immersive experience. Jin's leap of faith. In a symbolic scene where Jin finally believes in herself, she leaps across a chasm. The shot tracks her from below, light bursting behind her, echoing a visual metaphor for ascension, transformation, and courage. Bullseye 5. Cinematography's role in atmosphere and emotion. The cinematography doesn't just show, it guides the viewer's emotions. Tension is heightened through shadow play, long shots of empty landscapes, and close-ups of character reactions. Beauty is emphasized through wide establishing shots of bamboo forests, misty mountains, and cascading waterfalls, all rendered with stunning detail. Introspection is supported by slow, quiet camera movements and minimalist framing that isolate characters in vast spaces, mirroring their internal solitude. White-heavy checkmark conclusion. The cinematography in Kung Fu Panda 4 is a visual symphony, strategic, symbolic, and emotionally resonant. Through thoughtful angles, painterly lighting, and purposeful framing, the film transforms its animated world into a living, breathing cinematic experience. Whether it's an intimate moment of doubt or a grand showdown in a mystical realm, the camera is always telling a story of its own. The result is a visually rich, emotionally expressive, and thematically cohesive masterpiece that stands proudly alongside, and even above, its predecessors. Let me know if you'd like this formatted for YouTube narration or expanded into a script with voiceover cues. Black Scissors # Kung Fu Panda 4, Editing and Pacing Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the editing team delivers a finely tuned cinematic rhythm that seamlessly balances action, comedy, emotion, and thematic depth. The film's pacing is largely consistent, offering a carefully structured narrative progression that keeps the audience invested from beginning to end. The editorial decisions not only serve the story but also enhance character arcs, comedic timing, and emotional beats, while the transitions between sequences feel organic and fluid. Stopwatch #1. Overall pacing and structure. The film follows a 3-act structure with a pacing that mirrors the evolution of the main character, Po. Each act is edited to reflect a different emotional tempo. Act I, Introduction and Setup. The opening sequences move swiftly, establishing Po's current life as the Dragon Warrior and introducing new characters like Jun and the Chameleon. Editors maintain a brisk pace, using quick cuts, montages, and comedic beats to draw the audience in. Dialogue is snappy and often intercut with reaction shots or visual gags, ensuring energy stays high. Act 2, Internal Conflict and Training. The middle section slows down slightly to allow for character development and thematic exploration. Scenes of Po training Jin are edited with a mix of humor and sincerity, often using rhythmic montage sequences to show progress over time. Editors strategically place short, emotional pauses, like moments of silence, scenic transitions, or flashbacks, to provide breathing room amidst the action. Act 3, Climax and Resolution. The final act accelerates again, with the editing ramping up in intensity during the climactic battle in the spirit realm. Rapid cuts, slow-motion interludes, and stylized action sequences create a visually thrilling finale. As the story resolves, the pace tapers off to allow the emotional conclusions to fully resonate, particularly in scenes where Po contemplates his future and legacy. Clapperboard 2. Scene transitions and flow. The film excels in its scene-to-scene transitions, employing a variety of techniques that maintain fluidity and visual cohesion. Match cuts and visual bridges. Editors often use visual motifs, such as spinning scrolls, flying objects, or martial arts movements, to bridge one scene to the next. For example, a kick by Po in one scene might visually transition into Jin flipping through the air in the next, creating a kinetic continuity. Montages. The film uses several montages to compress time without sacrificing narrative clarity. These are particularly effective during training sequences and story-building moments, using quick-cut visuals, cross-dissolves, and thematic music overlays. See flashbacks and story scrolls. When exploring the Chameleon's backstory or the lore of the Dragon Warriors, the editors introduce stylized flashback sequences, often presented in traditional brush-paint animation or parchment scrolls. These sequences are edited with transitional flares and ink-wash dissolves, helping to maintain tonal consistency. 3:03. Rhythm and emotional impact. The rhythm of the film's editing plays a significant role in enhancing emotional depth and narrative engagement. Balancing humor and heart. Comedy is edited with impeccable timing. Beat pauses, reaction cuts, and synchronized sound cues heighten the punchlines. Emotional scenes, especially those involving Po's doubts or his connection with Jin, are given space. The editors use slower pacing, lingering close-ups, and ambient audio to let these moments breathe. B. Tension building. In scenes with the chameleon, particularly when she taps into dark magic, the editing becomes more fragmented and suspenseful. Jump cuts, echo effects, and cutaways to spirit world distortions create a feeling of unease and unpredictability. C. Resolution and closure. The final moments of the film are edited with emotional precision. The rhythm slows down as Poe passes the torch, accompanied by gentle dissolves and wide, contemplative framing, allowing viewers to absorb the gravity of his transition. Scales #4. Are there pacing issues? While the overall pacing is effective, there are minor stretches in the second act where momentum briefly dips. Some scenes exploring Poe's internal struggle or Jin's doubts could have been slightly tighter. However, these moments are necessary for character depth and are brief enough not to disrupt the film's flow. Ultimately, the editing ensures that no section overstays its welcome, and the blend of humor, emotion, and action is consistently balanced. White heavy checkmark conclusion. The editing and pacing in Kung Fu Panda 4 are masterfully executed, providing a seamless, emotionally resonant viewing experience. The editorial rhythm mirrors the narrative arcs, quick and energetic in action sequences, deliberate and introspective in character moments. Smooth transitions, well-timed montages, and a keen sense of comedic and emotional timing ensure that the audience remains engaged throughout. The result is a film that feels tight, purposeful, and emotionally satisfying, with editing that not only supports but enhances the storytelling on every level. Would you like this part turned into a YouTube voiceover script or formatted for subtitles as well? Musical note: Kung Fu Panda 4, soundtrack and score analysis, third-person perspective. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the soundtrack and score are more than just a musical backdrop. They are an integral storytelling tool. Composed with a rich blend of traditional Chinese instrumentation and modern cinematic orchestration, the music serves as a guide through the emotional highs and lows of the narrative. Every scene, whether explosive, meditative, or humorous, is elevated by the score's emotional intelligence and sonic depth. The legacy of Kung Fu Panda's musical world, established by Hans Zimmer and John Powell in earlier installments, continues here with a new but reverent approach. The composers retain familiar motifs while introducing fresh themes that reflect the evolving tone, characters, and stakes of the story. Musical score 1. Musical themes and recurring motifs. One of the strongest aspects of the Kung Fu Panda franchise has always been its memorable leitmotifs, and the fourth film proudly continues this tradition. A. Poe's hero theme. The iconic hero theme associated with Poe resurfaces in Kung Fu Panda 4, but in evolved forms that reflect his maturation. Early in the film, the theme appears in a soft, slower tempo, played on a single erhu, a two-string Chinese fiddle, symbolizing Poe's introspective state and emotional uncertainty. As the film progresses, this theme is reintroduced with swelling orchestration, particularly during his training scenes with Zhen and the climactic battle, showing his growth and renewed confidence. Zhen's theme. A completely new motif is introduced for Zhen, Poe's apprentice. It starts off subtle, with plucked guzheng strings and flute melodies, reflecting her cunning, agility, and mysterious background. As she begins to embrace her potential and align herself with the values of Kung Fu, her theme merges with elements of Poe's motif, creating a musical duet that mirrors their growing bond and her transformation. C. The chameleon's dark signature. The villainous chameleon is represented by an eerie, hypnotic motif composed of low woodwinds, reversed cymbal swells, and droning harmonics. Her theme is intentionally jarring and often accompanied by distorted gongs and whispered chants, adding an air of supernatural menace. During her scenes in the spirit realm, the score becomes ethereal and dissonant, with ambient synths and echoing strings that build tension and underscore her connection to dark magic. Milky Way 2. Emotional and atmospheric resonance. The score is finely attuned to the film's emotional beats, helping the audience feel the stakes, connect with the characters, and inhabit the world. A. Training and transformation. Training montages between Poe and Jin are infused with lively, percussive rhythms, echoing the style of traditional Kung Fu cinema. The tempo builds in sync with Jin's progress, giving the audience a rhythmic sense of momentum and development. B. Spiritual and reflective moments. In scenes where Poe communes with his ancestors or questions his legacy, the score quiets into a meditative blend of ambient textures and traditional flutes. Here, the music gives way to stillness, allowing reflection, a move that uses silence and simplicity to powerful emotional effect. C. Climactic battle sequences. During the final confrontation, The score reaches a majestic crescendo, combining all major themes, Poe's, Zhen's, and the Chameleon's, in a layered orchestral showdown. The music mimics the rhythm of combat, quick, staccato strings during intense martial arts sequences, swelling horns during emotional turning points, and full choral backing as the spiritual realm trembles under the weight of the fight. Speaker 3. Strategic use of silence and minimalism. One of the most impressive techniques in the film's sound design is the intentional use of silence. In a particularly dramatic moment where Zhen must make a critical choice, the score drops away entirely, leaving only ambient sounds, her breathing, footsteps, wind. This absence of music heightens tension and forces viewers to focus solely on character emotion, enhancing immersion. Moments of minimalism are used throughout the film to contrast with the bombastic action sequences, creating a musical ebb and flow that keeps the audience emotionally engaged. Headphone 4. Soundtrack as cultural homage. The music doesn't just serve the narrative, it also acts as an homage to Chinese culture, maintaining the franchise's legacy of respectful and artistic fusion. Instruments like the erhu, guzheng, pipa, and dizi are central to the score's identity. These are carefully blended with Western orchestral elements, never overpowering one another, creating a musical bridge between East and West. In this way, the soundtrack honors the source culture while maintaining global accessibility. Drum with Drumsticks 5. Standout tracks and audience impact. Several tracks stand out not just within the context of the film but also as standalone musical pieces. Legacy of the Dragon Warrior, a swelling, emotional reprise of Poe's classic theme, played during his torch-passing moment. Zhen's Path, a dynamic, hopeful piece underscoring her final transformation. The Spirit Realm Cracks, a tense, immersive composition filled with layered chanting, tremolo strings, and thunderous percussion that marks the villain's peak of power. These compositions not only elevate their scenes but are emotionally resonant enough to live on outside the film, on playlists, in trailers, or even as performance pieces. White heavy checkmark conclusion. The soundtrack and score of Kung Fu Panda 4 are a triumph of musical storytelling, marrying cultural authenticity with cinematic grandeur. From the delicate string arrangements that underscore Poe's introspection to the thunderous orchestrations that accompany the final battle, the music acts as an emotional compass, guiding the audience through joy, fear, excitement, and reflection. It's a score that doesn't overwhelm but amplifies, doesn't distract but deepens, a perfect musical companion to a film about legacy, transformation, and the enduring spirit of Kung Fu. Would you like a summarized version of this for YouTube narration or video description? Kung Fu Panda 4, Themes and Messages Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. Kung Fu Panda 4 extends the franchise's legacy of combining high-octane animated action with rich, emotionally resonant storytelling. Beneath its colorful surface and comedic exterior lies a profound thematic core that explores identity, legacy, mentorship, transformation, and the balance between old and new. These themes are not simply decorative. They drive the story forward, shape character arcs, and leave the audience with meaningful reflections long after the credits roll. Panda Face 1. Legacy and Letting Go. Perhaps the most prominent theme in Kung Fu Panda 4 is the idea of legacy, what it means to pass on wisdom, and when to let go. Poe, once the eager student, now stands at a crossroads. As the Dragon Warrior, he is urged to transition from warrior to spiritual leader, a role he is unsure he deserves or is ready for. This internal conflict mirrors a universal question. When is it time to step back and let others rise? Throughout the film, Poe wrestles with the fear of losing purpose and the uncertainty of change. However, through his bond with Zhen, he learns that letting go doesn't mean vanishing, it means evolving. This message is not forced, but earned. By the end, Poe's journey reflects the natural progression of growth, from learning to leading, from holding to handing over. The emotional weight behind this transition resonates with teachers, parents, mentors, and anyone facing the end of an era in their life. 2. Mentorship and the Power of Belief. Running parallel to Poe's arc is the story of Zhen, a street-smart fox who starts off skeptical and self-serving. Her evolution is a mirror of Poe's own past, and their dynamic becomes the heart of the film's emotional fabric. Zhen's growth is not just a result of training, but of someone believing in her. Poe's decision to guide her, even when she stumbles or pushes back, underlines the idea that mentorship is about patience, empathy, and trust. The film champions the concept that greatness can come from anywhere, but only flourishes when nurtured. This theme reinforces a broader message about potential, recognizing it in others and helping them recognize it in themselves. Dragon 3. Identity and self-worth. Both Po and Jin struggle with questions of identity. Po wonders if he is still needed. Is he only the dragon warrior when he's fighting? Or can he redefine himself without losing who he is? Jin, on the other hand, must overcome her belief that her past defines her, that she's only a thief, not someone worthy of respect or greatness. Their journeys reflect a deeper exploration of self-worth, how it's shaped by experience, and how it can be reshaped by choice and belief. The film communicates this theme with emotional nuance, especially in quiet moments. Jin doubting her place, Po staring at the scroll of his next phase, where the music, silence, and animation all converge to convey the weight of internal conflict. Lizard 4. Power and corruption. The villain, the Chameleon, introduces a theme that's subtle yet important. The danger of obsession with power, especially when rooted in envy and bitterness. The Chameleon's desire to steal the powers of past masters is a metaphor for those who take without learning, who consume legacy without honoring it. Her ability to mimic others' strengths, but not truly master them, reflects the emptiness of imitation over growth. This is a cautionary note about the misuse of knowledge and tradition, relevant in many spheres: leadership, politics, education, where power must be earned, not hijacked. Cyclone 5. Change, balance, and rebirth. The spirit realm in Kung Fu Panda 4 is more than a mystical location. It represents the cyclical nature of growth and transformation. The conflict between Po and the Chameleon plays out not just physically, but symbolically, between selfless guidance and selfish domination, between preserving wisdom and corrupting it. When Po embraces his new role and passes on the torch to Jin, the narrative comes full circle. It echoes the idea that true masters create more masters, not followers. This spiritual and philosophical layer adds depth, inviting viewers, especially adults, to reflect on their own journeys through change. Red Heart #6. Humor with heart. While heavy in theme, Kung Fu Panda 4 never loses its heart or humor. The film continues the franchise's tradition of balancing seriousness with silliness, allowing themes to land without ever becoming preachy. Laugh-out-loud moments are often followed by gentle reminders of deeper truths. For younger viewers, these moments plant seeds of wisdom, while older audiences find resonance in the subtle emotional layers beneath the jokes. White heavy checkmark conclusion. In Kung Fu Panda 4, themes are not just background ideas. They are woven into every decision, every relationship, every battle. From legacy and mentorship to identity and transformation, the film delivers layered messages that speak to all ages. Its greatest strength lies in how these messages don't feel forced or didactic, but organically emerge from character journeys and narrative structure. By the end, viewers are not only entertained but moved, left with questions about their own path, growth, and the impact they can have on others. It's a film that affirms a timeless truth, that even in a world of kung fu warriors and mystical realms, the greatest power lies in belief, humility, and the courage to grow. Would you like this analysis adapted into a YouTube voiceover script or broken into segments for a video series? Computer Monitor #Kung Fu Panda 4, Visual Effects and CGI Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the visual effects and CGI continue the franchise's tradition of pushing the boundaries of animated spectacle while maintaining the whimsical, painterly aesthetic that fans have come to cherish. Built on a solid foundation of DreamWorks' cutting-edge animation technology, this installment uses its visual effects not only to impress but to immerse viewers deeper into its richly imagined world. What sets Kung Fu Panda 4 apart visually is its balance between stylization and realism. The artists intentionally avoid photorealism in favor of vibrant, expressive animation that enhances emotion, movement, and mood. Yet within that stylized framework, the CGI is incredibly sophisticated, blending seamlessly with hand-drawn textures and atmospheric enhancements to create a cohesive and visually stunning world. Dragon Face 1. Integration of CGI with stylized animation. Unlike many Western animated films that aim for realism, Kung Fu Panda 4 remains loyal to its East Asian-inspired art style. The CGI is tailored to enhance the film's painterly world, from the lush forests and misty mountains to the magical spirit realm and busy street markets of the Valley of Peace. The integration of CGI with handcrafted environments is seamless. Characters are rendered with smooth, dynamic movement, but never lose the slight exaggeration that gives them personality. Elements like fire, water, magical energy, and wind are fully rendered in CGI and are choreographed with care to support narrative beats. They feel like extensions of the character's emotions or intentions rather than just digital flourishes. In this way, The CGI complements rather than competes with the film's visual tone, adding depth, texture, and fluidity without drawing attention away from the storytelling. Sparkles 2. Magic and Spirit Realm Visual Effects. One of the most visually ambitious elements of Kung Fu Panda 4 is the depiction of the Spirit Realm, a new setting in the franchise that required an entirely fresh visual approach. The Spirit Realm is portrayed as ethereal, luminescent, and ever-shifting, with landscapes that bend gravity and time. Particle effects, glowing auras, and dynamic energy fields are rendered with exquisite detail, giving scenes an almost dreamlike quality. When Po interacts with his ancestors or faces the villainous Chameleon in this realm, the CGI reaches its peak complexity, incorporating morphing effects, energy manipulation, and interdimensional transitions that are both visually dazzling and narratively symbolic. This is where the VFX team's creativity shines, not simply for the sake of spectacle, but for enhancing the mystical and spiritual layers of the story. Lizard 3. Character animation and CGI performance enhancement. Character animation in Kung Fu Panda 4 is a masterclass in expressive, emotive CGI work. Po's movements are more fluid and confident, reflecting his growth. The animators use subtle facial expressions and body language enhanced by physics-based simulation for fur, clothing, and skin deformation. Zhen, being a fox, has a completely different movement profile, agile, fast, almost liquid in motion. Her CGI is informed by real-world fox anatomy but exaggerated for visual flair. The Chameleon, as the antagonist, is a VFX marvel. Her shape-shifting abilities are animated with liquid-like transitions, sometimes terrifying, sometimes mesmerizing. Her transformations include visual distortions and warping effects that are unsettling in the best possible way. The precision in rigging, skin simulation, and environmental interaction brings these characters to life in a way that's both believable and visually striking. Cloud with Tornado #4. Environmental and destruction effects. The film's action sequences are punctuated with environmental destruction and large-scale effects that are both grand and narratively satisfying. From collapsing temples to mystical storms and magical explosions, the CGI doesn't just depict chaos, it's choreographed to mirror emotional intensity and character development. For instance, in the final battle, when Po and Jin combine forces, their attacks create shockwaves and energy pulses that not only dazzle but also signal unity and triumph. These large-scale effects are well-timed and clear, avoiding the sensory overload that often plagues high-action animated films. Viewers are never confused. They are guided through the visual narrative with clarity and rhythm. 5. Practical versus digital aesthetic. While the film is fully animated, it maintains a practical feel by emulating the tactile quality of traditional art forms. Backgrounds often resemble ink brush paintings, enhanced digitally but rooted in physical art traditions. Textures on surfaces like stone, wood, and fur feel grounded, digital, but crafted to appear hand-drawn. The visual effects maintain a consistent lighting model that mimics natural cinematographic lighting, avoiding the overglossed look of overly synthetic animation. By doing so, the film blurs the line between digital wizardry and practical artistry, creating a world that feels both fantastical and emotionally grounded. Bullseye 6. Visual effects as storytelling tools. Perhaps the most notable achievement of Kung Fu Panda 4's VFX is their narrative discipline. The film never allows its effects to become indulgent or disconnected from the story. Every visual effect serves a purpose, to heighten emotion, clarify plot, or enhance character. For example, when Po lets go of his role as the Dragon Warrior, the glowing emblem on his robe slowly dims, a small, subtle VFX touch, but one loaded with symbolism. Jin's final transformation into a confident protector is punctuated with a golden flare of energy, mirroring Po's signature moves but with her unique twist, again, reinforcing the story through visuals. White-heavy checkmark conclusion. The visual effects and CGI in Kung Fu Panda 4 are not merely technical triumphs, they are storytelling in motion. From the mystical beauty of the spirit realm to the fast-paced clarity of Kung Fu action sequences, every visual element is crafted to support theme, emotion, and narrative. The seamless integration of digital effects with stylized animation, the expressive character work, and the thoughtful use of spectacle all contribute to a film that is as emotionally immersive as it is visually breathtaking. Rather than overwhelming the viewer, the effects pull them in, inviting them to experience the story not just as an audience, but as a participant. In short, the VFX in Kung Fu Panda 4 prove that when used with precision and purpose, visual effects can elevate animation to cinematic poetry. Would you like a summarized version for use in a video script or narration for your YouTube channel? Japanese Castle Kung Fu Panda 4, Set Design and Locations Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the set design and locations are not merely backdrops for action. They are living, breathing extensions of the narrative itself. From ancient temples nestled in misty mountain ranges to bustling, color-saturated villages, each setting has been thoughtfully designed to evoke mood, support character arcs, and enrich the film's Eastern-inspired aesthetic. The world of Kung Fu Panda 4 feels larger and more layered than ever, thanks to a combination of innovative art direction, cultural authenticity, and thematic symbolism embedded in the design of its various locations. These settings not only ground the story in a visually compelling universe but also reflect the emotional and narrative stakes of the characters' journeys. Panda Face 1. Valley of Peace, a familiar home, reimagined. The film opens in the iconic Valley of Peace, which has long been the heart of the franchise. In this installment, the valley is rendered with even more detail and dynamism. The layout of the village is more expansive, showcasing new courtyards, training grounds, markets, and community spaces. Subtle changes in the design reflect the passage of time and Poe's evolution as the Dragon Warrior, murals depicting past battles, statues honoring kung fu legends, and a more fortified training dojo now stand in the village square. This continuity with visual growth creates a sense of nostalgia while also pushing the narrative forward, visually cueing viewers that Poe's era is maturing, even if he hasn't accepted it yet. Fox Face 2. Juniper City, the new urban frontier. One of the standout new locations introduced in Kung Fu Panda 4 is Juniper City, a vibrant, chaotic, and culturally rich city that bursts with life. With architecture inspired by a fusion of Tang Dynasty motifs and fictionalized East Asian urban design, Juniper City feels both fantastical and grounded. Narrow alleys, towering pagodas, ornate bridges, glowing lanterns, and layered rooftops make the cityscape a playground for fast-paced action, stealth sequences, and emotional exchanges. Juniper City is more than a set, it's a symbol of change and transition. For Poe, it represents the unknown, a departure from the simple, structured life of the valley. For Jeanne, it's a reflection of her past, full of shadows and shifting allegiances. These thematic undercurrents are amplified by the diverse spatial design of the city, which ranges from grandiose public plazas to secret underground hideouts. Dragon 3. The Spirit Realm, surreal and sacred. Visually and thematically, the Spirit Realm is the most ambitious and abstract location in the film. Unlike the grounded, earthy tones of the physical world, the Spirit Realm is painted in glowing hues of purple, blue, gold, and silver. Floating islands, celestial staircases, shifting landscapes, and shimmering rivers of energy dominate the environment. The design is inspired by Daoist depictions of the afterlife and celestial harmony, offering a place that feels both otherworldly and spiritually resonant. This realm acts as a symbolic landscape for inner transformation. When Poe enters it, the set becomes a mirror to his soul, ever-changing, surreal, and filled with echoes of the past. The set design here isn't just beautiful, it's deeply metaphoric, visualizing the tension between ego and humility, memory and purpose. Lizard 4. The Chameleon's Fortress, Twisted Power. The lair of the antagonist, the Chameleon, is a masterclass in atmospheric set design. Hidden in the mountains and surrounded by dark, storm-swept landscapes, the fortress radiates menace and decay. It combines ancient ruins with dark magical motifs, including walls inscribed with runes, pools of mystical liquid, and chambers filled with relics stolen from fallen kung fu masters. The layout of the fortress, labyrinthine and uneven, reflects the chameleon's unstable personality and hunger for power. This location isn't just a villain's hideout, it's a visual representation of corrupted tradition, contrasting the peaceful serenity of the Valley of Peace with a space that hoards power and rejects wisdom. Scroll 5. Props and cultural details, a feast of authenticity. The props and smaller elements scattered across each set also deserve high praise for their attention to cultural detail and narrative symbolism. Traditional Chinese instruments, scrolls, weapons, tea sets, and martial arts relics are carefully rendered with texture and purpose. Items such as Poe's staff, Jeanne's mask, or scrolls in the spirit realm aren't just functional. They carry thematic weight, often marking key character or story transitions. Even background elements, like calligraphy on dojo walls or vendor signs in Juniper City, contribute to a sense of world-building that respects and draws from real-world Chinese heritage. These props ensure that every frame is rich with context, even in moments of silence or transition. Sunrise Over Mountains 6. Environmental storytelling, mood through setting. Each major location not only supports the story but often tells a story itself. Lighting in the Valley of Peace shifts as Poe grapples with internal conflict, from golden morning serenity to dim evening introspection. The spatial compression in Juniper City evokes the feeling of being lost in a crowd, mirroring Jin's journey from chaos to clarity. Open, sky-filled vistas in the spirit realm signify spiritual release, while tight corridors in the Chameleon's fortress heighten feelings of tension and entrapment. The film uses space, scale, and color to convey emotional tone, proving that set design is as much a storytelling tool as dialogue or action. White-heavy checkmark conclusion. In Kung Fu Panda 4, set design and location choices are deeply intertwined with the film's emotional core and narrative rhythm. Every village, alleyway, spiritual plane, and villain's fortress has been meticulously crafted to reflect character arcs, enrich atmosphere, and immerse audiences in a world that feels timeless yet ever-changing. Rather than leaning on spectacle alone, the film's production design embraces symbolism, cultural homage, and emotional storytelling through space. It's a stunning reminder that in animated cinema, settings are not just seen, they are felt. Would you like this analysis reformatted into a YouTube-ready video segment with a voiceover tone? Kung Fu Panda 4, Dialogue and Script Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the dialogue and screenplay remain true to the heart of the franchise, a vibrant blend of humor, philosophy, and emotional sincerity. The writers skillfully balance comedic timing with introspective depth, creating a script that not only entertains but also enriches the characters' emotional arcs and the film's central themes of growth, legacy, and letting go. This installment stands out for its clever wordplay, natural conversational rhythm, and memorable lines that capture the soul of its characters, especially as Poe transitions from being the dragon warrior to discovering what it means to be a spiritual leader. Panda Face 1. Poe's dialogue, from buffoonery to wisdom. Poe has always been known for his lovable goofiness, but in Kung Fu Panda 4, his dialogue reflects a more mature, self-aware version of the character, while still retaining the humor fans adore. In the early parts of the film, Poe's lines are filled with self-deprecating humor and classic fish-out-of-water observations, especially when he's thrown into new settings like Juniper City. As the film progresses, his dialogue becomes more philosophical and reflective, signaling his internal evolution. One of the standout lines occurs when Poe is confronted with the possibility of no longer being the dragon warrior. If I'm not the dragon warrior anymore, then who am I? Just a panda with a noodle recipe. This moment, although light on the surface, resonates with anyone facing an identity crisis, and it's delivered with a balance of vulnerability and charm. Later, when Poe accepts his changing role, he says, "Being the dragon warrior was my journey. Helping others find theirs, that's my destiny." This line serves as a turning point, a concise, impactful piece of writing that encapsulates Poe's growth and the film's core message. Fox Face 2. Jin's dialogue, sharp, witty, and layered. Jin, the fox thief who becomes Poe's unlikely ally, brings a fresh, modern voice to the series. Her dialogue is characterized by sarcastic wit, often used to mask her insecurities. Quick comebacks, highlighting her intelligence and street-smart nature. A growing emotional openness, especially in scenes where she reflects on her past and grapples with her sense of purpose. Early on, she quips, "I don't follow orders. I steal them." A classic line that showcases her independence and defiance. But later, in a quieter moment, she tells Poe, "Maybe I've been running from something I was meant to protect all along." This marks a shift in her character, where vulnerability replaces bravado, and the line itself is poetic in its subtlety. Jin's dialogue is crucial in making her transformation believable and emotionally grounded. Lizard 3. The Chameleon's dialogue, menace with meaning. The villain, the Chameleon, is uniquely threatening because her words are calm, calculated, and deeply manipulative. Her dialogue is often philosophical, challenging the notion of legacy and mocking the wisdom of the past. Why should one hero hold the power of 1,000, when I can be all of them? This line not only highlights her ambition but also delivers a chilling commentary on control, identity, and ego. The Chameleon's script doesn't rely on over-the-top villainy. Instead, her words are cold and convincing, making her morally unsettling and ideologically dangerous. Handshake 4. Supporting characters, lightness and heart. Characters like Mr. Ping, Li Shan, and returning fan favorites provide comic relief and emotional warmth through their dialogue. Mr. Ping's mix of fatherly concern and dramatic exaggeration remains a consistent source of humor. Spiritual leader? Is there a handbook for that? Or a hat? Please tell me there's a hat. Li Shan's dialogue, in contrast, leans toward the heartfelt, often reminding Po of his deeper purpose. You've mastered Kung Fu, Po. Now it's time to master yourself. These lines may seem simple but are strategically placed to support key turning points in the narrative, reminding the audience of Po's dual identity as both a warrior and a son. 5. Humor, emotion, and rhythm, the script's balancing act. The script's real strength lies in its ability to shift seamlessly between humor and emotion without jarring the viewer. This balance keeps the tone light while allowing for genuine emotional depth. Comedy often emerges from character, not slapstick, whether it's Po's awkward attempts at being wise or Jin's deadpan observations. Emotional moments are earned, not forced, carefully set up by the dialogue and pacing of conversations. The script uses recurring motifs, such as the idea of letting go, that appear in both dramatic and comedic scenes, giving the narrative cohesion. Speech Balloon 6. Memorable lines, quotable and thematic. Several lines from the film stand out for their narrative weight and quotability. A true master doesn't lead the way, they light the way. You don't have to fight alone to prove you're strong. Sometimes, the only thing scarier than change is standing still. These quotes carry universal messages that appeal to both young and adult audiences, reaffirming Kung Fu Panda's legacy as a franchise that delivers wisdom disguised in whimsy. White heavy checkmark conclusion. The dialogue and script of Kung Fu Panda 4 are thoughtfully crafted, rich in humor, heart, and thematic weight. The writing respects the franchise's tone while pushing its characters, particularly Po and Jin, into deeper emotional territory. Whether through philosophical monologues, snappy banter, or quiet confessions, the script successfully captures the complexity of transformation and legacy. It's not just what the characters say, it's how and when they say it that gives the film its emotional impact and memorable charm. Would you like this analysis adapted into a voiceover script for your YouTube video or shortened into bullet points for a review segment? Clapperboard Kung Fu Panda 4, Genre Execution Analysis, Third-Person Perspective. Kung Fu Panda 4 sits comfortably within the animated action comedy adventure genre, yet what distinguishes it is the way it blends traditional martial arts tropes, Eastern philosophy, heartfelt storytelling, and character-driven humor into a uniquely stylized cinematic experience. While it honors many of the franchise's signature genre beats, it also evolves in tone and scope, subtly subverting expectations and introducing fresh dimensions to its narrative formula. The result is a film that feels familiar yet forward-thinking, executing its genre elements with precision, while expanding into new thematic and stylistic territories. Martial Arts Uniform 1. Martial arts action, honoring the roots, elevating the form. As expected from a Kung Fu Panda film, the action is deeply rooted in martial arts tradition, drawing inspiration from wuxia films, classic Kung Fu cinema, and animated choreography. The fight scenes in Kung Fu Panda 4 are not only high energy but also narratively significant. Each combat sequence serves as a moment of character development or plot escalation. The choreography varies in tone, from slapstick-infused scuffles to intense, emotionally charged duels, reflecting the internal state of the characters involved. Notably, the film pays homage to Shaw Brothers-style cinema with dramatic stances, slow-motion tension builds, and stylized finishing moves, while still making space for Po's signature bumbling unpredictability. The balance of discipline and chaos within these sequences adds depth to the genre execution. Rolling on the floor laughing too. Comedy, character-driven, smart, and age-appropriate. Comedy remains a key pillar of the franchise, and Kung Fu Panda 4 continues this tradition with finesse. Instead of relying solely on visual gags or over-the-top slapstick, the humor is organic, arising from the characters' personalities and relationships. Po's awkward wisdom, Jin's street-smart sarcasm, and Mr. Ping's emotional exaggerations provide a diverse range of comedic styles, keeping the tone light even during tense moments. What makes the humor resonate is its multi-layered approach. It entertains younger audiences with surface-level antics while also delivering witty, self-aware dialogue that adults can appreciate. This ensures the comedy doesn't undercut the story's emotional weight, but instead enhances it. Performing Arts 3. Drama and emotional depth, a layer beneath the laughter. Beneath the martial arts spectacle and comedy lies a genuine emotional core that is central to the film's genre effectiveness. Themes of identity, legacy, fear of change, and mentorship are explored with surprising maturity, particularly through Poe's journey of accepting a new role in life. Jin's character arc, from rebellious thief to potential protector, adds a layer of coming-of-age drama, contrasting Poe's arc of letting go. The dramatic elements are never overwrought. Rather, they are woven seamlessly into the action and humor, allowing moments of vulnerability to feel earned and not manipulative. This emotional grounding keeps the film from falling into genre cliches. Crossed Swords #4. Fantasy and mythology, expanding the lore. Where previous entries leaned more heavily on personal growth and localized conflict, Kung Fu Panda 4 delves deeper into mythological storytelling, especially with the introduction of the spirit realm and the mystical antagonist, the Chameleon. These additions add a fantasy-adventure flavor, broadening the universe and opening doors to more spiritual and metaphysical themes. The spirit realm, in particular, allows for genre expansion, merging action-adventure with elements of mysticism and existential reflection, reminiscent of genres like heroic fantasy and spiritual epic. By introducing these elements, the film subverts the purely physical interpretation of strength and skill, instead emphasizing wisdom, legacy, and transformation as heroic traits. Books 5. Balancing genres, harmony, not collision. What makes Kung Fu Panda 4 successful is how it balances its genre elements. Action is visually thrilling but tied to emotional stakes. Humor is playful but never undercuts serious moments. Drama is introspective without becoming melodramatic. Fantasy is imaginative yet grounded in the characters' personal journeys. This tonal harmony allows the film to cater to broad audiences: children, families, martial arts enthusiasts, and fans of character-driven narratives, without alienating any particular group. Package 6. Use of genre conventions, respectful yet innovative. The film uses several familiar genre tropes. The reluctant mentor, Poe grappling with his new role. The scrappy sidekick-turned-hero, Jin. The power-hungry villain with a metaphysical agenda, the Chameleon. And the spiritual journey trope that turns the physical quest into an inner transformation. Yet, rather than feeling predictable, these tropes are given new flavor through character complexity, thematic depth, and a focus on legacy over simple triumph. The film's refusal to treat these conventions as formulaic makes its genre execution both effective and refreshing. White-heavy checkmark conclusion. In Kung Fu Panda 4, genre execution is more than ticking boxes. It's a harmonious fusion of storytelling traditions and modern sensibilities. The film adheres to the martial arts action comedy blueprint while injecting spiritual growth, mythological wonder, and emotionally resonant themes into its structure. Rather than falling back on cliches, it uses genre conventions as springboards for innovation, resulting in a film that's exciting, meaningful, and universally accessible. Kung Fu Panda 4 is a prime example of how genre filmmaking can evolve without losing its roots. Would you like this broken into voiceover script segments for your video, or formatted for a blog-style post on your YouTube channel? Globe with Asia Australia. Kung Fu Panda 4, social and cultural commentary, third-person perspective. While Kung Fu Panda 4 functions first and foremost as an animated martial arts adventure, beneath its comedic surface and high-flying action lies a subtle but resonant layer of social and cultural commentary. The film explores themes of identity, mentorship, legacy, inclusion, and self-worth, all relevant in the context of contemporary conversations about leadership, generational shifts, and cultural diversity. Rather than addressing real-world politics directly, the film weaves these ideas into its character dynamics, world-building, and emotional arcs, allowing it to connect with a global audience in a meaningful, age-appropriate, and non-preachy way. 1. Leadership and the burden of legacy. One of the most prominent themes in Kung Fu Panda 4 is the evolution of leadership, how power is passed down, and what it means to be a worthy leader. Poe's internal struggle over stepping down as the Dragon Warrior and stepping up as a spiritual guide mirrors a wider generational concern. How do older generations make room for younger voices without feeling obsolete? The film comments on the difficulty of letting go of titles and power, a subtle nod to global conversations about legacy institutions, authority, and the need for adaptable leadership. At the same time, it explores the hesitancy of the next generation, represented by Jin, to step into leadership roles, especially when they feel underqualified or burdened by societal expectations. This nuanced exchange between old and new, mentor and mentee, reflects how real societies grapple with transition, change, and the redefinition of power. Fox Face 2. Redemption and Second Chances. Jin's character arc, from a street-smart thief to a protector in training, represents a modern social narrative of rehabilitation and inclusion. Rather than writing her off for her past mistakes, the film chooses to believe in her potential, signaling a message about restorative justice and the power of trust and mentorship in transforming lives. This resonates with ongoing cultural shifts toward understanding root causes of behavior rather than relying on punishment alone, a message especially relevant for younger audiences growing up in a world where empathy and reform are increasingly emphasized. The decision to allow a flawed character like Jin to grow, stumble, and ultimately rise is an important counter to black and white morality in children's media. Dragon 3. Cultural respect and authentic representation. As with previous entries, Kung Fu Panda 4 continues to draw heavily from Chinese culture, mythology, martial arts tradition, and spiritual philosophy, particularly through the design of the spirit realm and the teachings Po grapples with. However, this installment goes a step further by introducing new settings like Juniper City, which blends ancient design with modern sensibilities, possibly symbolizing a hybrid of East and West, a quiet metaphor for cultural globalization and the blending of tradition with innovation. Offering more nuanced and respectful representations of spiritual concepts like transformation, balance, and identity, themes rooted in Taoist and Buddhist philosophy, without trivializing or westernizing them for entertainment purposes. By doing so, the film reinforces DreamWorks' continued effort to honor the source cultures of the kung fu genre, rather than appropriating them. Lizard 4. The Chameleon, a symbol of control and identity crisis. The film's antagonist, the Chameleon, serves as an allegorical figure for manipulation of identity and power consolidation. Her desire to absorb the powers of all past villains is a metaphor for centralized control and the erasure of individuality, a theme that can resonate with conversations around monopolization, in business or politics, and the loss of cultural or personal autonomy. Her transformation powers reflect a fluid sense of identity, possibly nodding to contemporary discourse around personal transformation, reinvention, or even discussions of authenticity and imposter syndrome in social media culture. While not overtly political, the Chameleon's characterization subtly warns against obsession with legacy, status, and imitation, favoring genuine selfhood over power mimicked from others. Speech Balloon 5. Generational dialogue and mutual learning. One of the film's strongest social commentaries is its depiction of intergenerational dialogue, where both the older and younger characters learn from one another, rather than falling into one-sided mentorship tropes. Po learns that leadership isn't about controlling the future but guiding others toward it. Jin learns that making mistakes doesn't disqualify her from greatness, it humanizes her journey. This mutual growth reflects real-world conversations around youth empowerment, collaborative leadership, and the importance of giving young people agency while honoring the wisdom of those before them. Handshake 6. Universal messages over forced morality. What sets Kung Fu Panda 4 apart is its ability to embed social ideas organically, without veering into moralizing or forced messaging. Themes like redemption, inclusion, self-discovery, and respectful succession are explored with emotional authenticity, not ideological rigidity. Rather than delivering overt political messages, the film speaks to universal human experiences, fear of change, desire for belonging, and the journey toward self-worth. As a result, the commentary feels timeless and relevant, rather than trend-chasing or opportunistic. White heavy checkmark conclusion. In Kung Fu Panda 4, the social and cultural commentary is thoughtfully woven into the emotional and narrative fabric of the story. Without making direct political statements, the film engages with universal social themes, identity, generational change, inclusion, and cultural respect, in a way that is both accessible and resonant. Through characters like Po, Zhen, and the Chameleon, the film examines what it means to lead, to grow, and to believe in others, offering younger audiences more than just entertainment. It provides subtle but powerful insights into modern human experiences. Would you like this content transformed into a segment for your YouTube video, perhaps with visual cues or bullet-style breakdowns for easier narration? Kung Fu Panda 4, Audience Engagement, Third-Person Perspective. Kung Fu Panda 4 succeeds not only as a visually rich, action-packed animated film, but also as an emotionally resonant and thematically thoughtful story that engages its audience on multiple levels. From eliciting laughter and joy to moments of introspection and sentimentality, the film delivers a multi-layered viewing experience that resonates with children, families, animation lovers, and longtime fans of the franchise alike. It's a film that entertains in the moment while planting seeds for repeat viewings, post-movie conversations, and personal reflection, all key markers of strong audience engagement. Face with Tears of Joy 1. Humor that lands across generations. The humor in Kung Fu Panda 4 remains one of its most effective engagement tools. For children, Po's clumsy antics, exaggerated expressions, and humorous training sequences evoke pure, immediate laughter. For adults, the film layers in clever dialogue, ironic timing, and culturally witty references that reward attentive viewers. Characters like Mr. Ping and Po's adoptive dad Li Shan provide family-centric humor that resonates especially with parents and caregivers, bringing a wholesome and relatable dynamic to the screen. By balancing slapstick with subtle satire, the humor works on multiple levels, ensuring engagement from a broad spectrum of viewers. 2. Emotional arcs that connect. At the heart of Kung Fu Panda 4 is an emotional narrative about growth, acceptance, and transformation, which gives the film its staying power. Po's struggle with letting go of his identity as the Dragon Warrior and embracing his role as a mentor reflects a fear of change and loss of purpose, a sentiment many adults can deeply identify with. Zhen's arc as an outsider trying to find her place offers a poignant message about second chances, trust, and self-belief, likely to resonate with younger audiences who feel misunderstood or underestimated. The emotional reunion between spiritual warriors, moments of inner doubt, and scenes of sacrifice are handled with gentle sincerity, drawing genuine emotional responses from viewers. These heartfelt beats ensure the audience remains invested beyond spectacle, rooting for the characters not just because of what they do, but because of who they are becoming. Cross Swords #3. Thrilling action and visual energy. The action sequences, infused with beautifully choreographed martial arts and dynamic visual effects, play a central role in keeping the audience energized and immersed. Each battle has emotional stakes, and the choreography reflects character development, such as Po's controlled moves representing his maturity or Zhen's chaotic agility symbolizing her internal conflict. The tension and pacing of the fight scenes maintain narrative momentum, keeping audiences on the edge of their seats while emotionally connecting with the outcomes. Children, in particular, are captivated by the vibrant animation and fast-paced sequences, while adults can appreciate the cinematic homages and symbolic movements embedded in the action. 4. Themes that inspire reflection and discussion. While wrapped in humor and fantasy, the film's deeper themes invite audiences to reflect. What does it mean to let go of control and trust someone else with your legacy? How do we redefine our identity in the face of change or uncertainty? What does redemption look like, and who gets to grant it? These questions, though posed subtly, create opportunities for after-movie conversations, especially between parents and children or among fans discussing character growth. The movie's tone doesn't demand answers, but rather plants the seeds for thoughtful engagement, making it more than just a one-time viewing experience. Megaphone 5. Fan connection and franchise loyalty. For longtime fans of the Kung Fu Panda series, the fourth installment offers a nostalgic return to beloved characters and themes, while pushing the story forward. Cameos and callbacks to earlier films serve as emotional touchpoints, sparking recognition and loyalty. The continuation of Po's journey, especially his internal evolution, allows fans to grow with the character, deepening emotional investment. This connection encourages repeat viewing, fan theories, social media discussions, and a desire to see where the story goes next, demonstrating strong fanbase engagement. Admission ticket #6. Accessibility and universal appeal. One of the strongest indicators of audience engagement is broad accessibility, and Kung Fu Panda 4 excels in this regard. It appeals to all ages without being condescending to kids or overly simplistic for adults. Its cultural richness, drawn from Chinese traditions and philosophies, engages global audiences with both curiosity and respect. The themes of identity, change, and purpose are universally relatable, making the film deeply resonant regardless of background. The result is a film that doesn't just capture attention. It holds it, connects emotionally, and invites return. Whiteheaver checkmark conclusion. Kung Fu Panda 4 is a masterclass in audience engagement. It combines action, humor, heart, and thought-provoking themes in a way that keeps viewers entertained while also giving them something meaningful to take away. Whether it's the excitement of a battle, the warmth of a heartfelt scene, or the humor of a quick-witted line, the film offers a full spectrum of emotional experiences. This rich engagement ensures not only satisfaction but loyalty and curiosity, inspiring repeat viewings, conversations, and a deeper appreciation for the characters and their journeys. In essence, Kung Fu Panda 4 does more than entertain. It connects, resonates, and endures. Would you like this formatted as a video voiceover script for your YouTube channel? Or should I break it down into on-screen segments with key visuals and bullet points for easier editing? Clapperboard Kung Fu Panda 4 Comparisons to Similar Films, Third-Person Perspective. Viewed within the larger landscape of animated cinema, Kung Fu Panda 4 emerges as a film that both embraces the legacy of its franchise and seeks to expand its narrative scope. While it stays true to the heart of what made the original trilogy successful, blending martial arts, Eastern philosophy, humor, and heart, the film also attempts to redefine its tone and direction, positioning itself as both a sequel and a potential soft reboot. When compared to its predecessors and peers in the genre, Kung Fu Panda 4 stands out for its emotional maturity and character evolution, while also facing challenges in matching the narrative depth and visual grandeur of earlier entries. Panda face within the franchise, a new chapter with familiar roots. In comparing Kung Fu Panda 4 to Kung Fu Panda 1 to 3, the fourth installment represents a transitional moment for the franchise. The original trilogy. The first three films focused on Po's journey from an unqualified dreamer to the Dragon Warrior, culminating in his spiritual mastery and self-acceptance. These films were praised for their emotional arcs, stunning animation, deeply philosophical themes, and strong antagonist development, Tai Lung, Lord Shin, and Kai. Kung Fu Panda 4 shifts the narrative into a post-hero phase, where Po is now tasked with passing on his legacy. This new role provides a fresh emotional angle, but is less grounded in the epic hero's journey archetype that made the earlier films so mythic in scope. While it doesn't possess the visual spectacle or villain complexity of Kung Fu Panda 2 or the emotional gravitas of Kung Fu Panda 3, it brings a lighter, more mentor-driven energy that sets the stage for future stories, possibly even spin-offs. Dragon compared to other DreamWorks animated films. Against DreamWorks' broader catalog, How to Train Your Dragon, The Bad Guys, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, Kung Fu Panda 4 holds its own but takes a more traditional sequel route rather than reinventing the wheel. The Bad Guys and Puss in Boots, The Last Wish both introduced bold stylistic choices, from comic book-inspired visuals to more mature thematic treatments of mortality and fear. These innovations helped redefine their franchises and set new benchmarks in animation. Kung Fu Panda 4, in contrast, plays it a bit safer. Its visual style, while polished, doesn't break new ground. It focuses more on internal growth and franchise continuity than stylistic reinvention. However, its emotional storytelling and commitment to character evolution are in line with DreamWorks' best offerings. It doesn't quite reach the narrative or visual sophistication of How to Train Your Dragon 2, but it delivers a more accessible and family-friendly tone. In the martial arts and hero genre. Among animated martial arts films and coming-of-age stories, Kung Fu Panda 4 continues to serve as a unique hybrid. Unlike Western superhero films or fantasy adventures, it remains rooted in Eastern traditions, using Kung Fu not just as an action device but as a spiritual metaphor. Compared to action-heavy animations like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Kung Fu Panda 4 retains a slower, more character-driven rhythm, focusing on mentorship, legacy, and balance rather than pure combat or rebellion. It avoids the genre's cliches of constant escalation by focusing on transitional growth, a refreshing change from the high-stakes, world-ending plots common in animated sequels. While it may not offer the most groundbreaking action, it delivers a more philosophical and emotionally reflective experience that appeals to fans of more introspective hero stories. Counterclockwise arrows. Does it offer something new or follow a familiar formula? Kung Fu Panda 4 walks a delicate line between familiar comfort and cautious innovation. It follows the franchise formula of mixing martial arts action, comedy, and mentorship, but introduces a new co-lead, Zhen, and a female antagonist, the Chameleon, diversifying the narrative voices. The shift toward Po as a mentor is new territory, opening up long-term storytelling opportunities, perhaps a series or next-gen arc. However, the plot itself, a new villain threatens peace, Po must train a successor, and inner growth wins the day, is familiar to fans and lacks the dramatic stakes or twists that characterized earlier entries. Thus, while it doesn't radically subvert expectations, it offers enough character progression and world-building expansion to feel like a meaningful addition rather than a redundant sequel. White-heavy checkmark. Conclusion. In comparison to similar films, Kung Fu Panda 4 doesn't necessarily surpass the emotional highs or visual ambition of its franchise predecessors or genre peers like Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, or How to Train Your Dragon 2. However, it carves out its own space by transitioning into a mentor-based narrative and exploring legacy, change, and emotional evolution. It delivers a satisfying and heartwarming experience that remains true to the franchise's core values while lightly evolving its narrative focus. While not the most daring installment, Kung Fu Panda 4 sets the stage for future growth, making it a solid and respectable chapter in an already beloved saga. Would you like me to help turn this into a YouTube voiceover script with timestamps and visual prompts? Cyclone Kung Fu Panda 4, Symbolism and Metaphors, Third-Person Perspective. Kung Fu Panda 4 is more than a vibrant martial arts comedy. It is a film rich with symbolism, recurring motifs, and metaphorical layers that elevate its emotional and philosophical storytelling. While appealing to a broad audience, it continues the franchise's tradition of using Eastern philosophical themes, animal archetypes, and visual allegory to explore inner transformation, balance, legacy, and identity. These elements do not overwhelm the narrative, but rather quietly deepen the film's resonance, offering subtle insights that reward viewers who look beyond the surface. Panda face Po as the bridge between eras, the symbol of transition. In this film, Po represents the bridge between the old and the new. No longer the wide-eyed student or freshly minted dragon warrior, he is now symbolic of change, a transitional figure tasked with preserving the past while shaping the future. His black and white fur, once simply visual design, continues to symbolize duality, yin and yang, teacher and student, chaos and order.